Yeah, well, we got there from, I think, a lot of cultural encouragement from the regular media who has been presenting ego-comparative happiness as if it could really be the full satisfaction of humanity.
Yeah.
You know, I used to take my college classes and have them do an assessment, you know, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Please watch the following TV programs, or, you know, watch whatever your favorite programs are, and then watch the ads between the programs and just tell me, you know, what do you come up with? Is this a dominant level 1 ad, a level 2 ad, a level 3 ad, a level 4 ad? These kids would go home, of course, shockingly, right? The vast majority of ads are level 2, and, you know, appeal right there, and the programs are almost fit, you know,
Right,
to correspond to the ads, not vice versa.
Right.
And do make these appeals, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think there are other contributing factors too in our culture, many. I'm reminded of the fact that, you know, there's a paradox that the more egalitarian we get, the more we foster individualism, the more people become rivalrous and comparative. It's not just jealousy where you want what somebody else has. I think it's what the Greeks called phthanos, invidia. It's that deadly sin, one of the 7, but in some ways the deadliest of them all. From what we read in Wisdom 2:24, it was the envy of the devil that became the source of sin and death for the human race. And I honestly believe that envy, where you look at something that somebody else has, like Cain, who sees his younger brother's sacrifice accepted, and instead of asking if we could exchange so that I could offer an acceptable sacrifice, he sacrifices his own brother. And I think, you know, there was a famous book written years ago, Helmut Schuck, a professor at Johns Hopkins, wrote Envy, A Theory of Social Behavior. And he said the only social force that is equal to envy is the fear of being envied. You know, so envy is that resentment of the advantages of others. But once you get the gold medal, then you begin to realize that you are the object of envy. Or once you get fame and fortune or wealth. And so Schuck, as in this book, shows how the successful try to either hide their successes or kind of wear their failures and weaknesses. And I just think that this describes politics, this describes mass media, and even what happens to sports stars when they flourish, when they succeed. You know, they don't know how to handle it because they realize they are being resented by a lot of others.
You know, the solution, I think, is pretty easy, self-forgetfulness. And to the degree that we rivet our minds on God, the other, the transcendent, we become blessedly less self-aware, less self-consumed, self-absorbed. Because what you're describing is really crippling, paralyzing. Why would people want to be like this?
They don't know any better. As you know, as the kids, you know, point out to me, these are undergrads, point out to me, they basically say, look, you know, nobody's heard of level 3 or level 4. I said, well, you're Catholics, or didn't you grow up as a Catholic? Yeah, well, we did, but you know, it just kind of receded to the back of our mind. It's something we do on Sundays. I said, well, you better start putting it out front on weekdays, because, you know, it is blessedly not only absorbing yourself in God and absorbing yourself in the good of the other, is blessedly non-self-absorptive.
Catholic kids don't know this.
Right.
It's like
But, you know, it's
they board
really
the cultural elevator, and there are only 2 buttons, floor 1 and 2.
Right.
And they've got 2 other floors, but there's no button to get there.
But this is very...
It's a complete disconnect of putting together their religious training with happiness and ethics. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, Father, this is really disheartening, because I would have thought that the longing for God was really the deepest, most natural, even spontaneous drive of the human heart. This eros, this surge of the spirit in search of the divine, the other, God.
Well, it is in a way. But what Aristotle noticed was that on the lower levels of happiness, you have what's more intense, immediately gratifying, and surface apparent. Now that, you know, if you've got computer games with super graphics, or you've got, you know, designer drugs, or you've got, you know, clothes that are just, dazzling, or programs that are just enticing, right? And you've got all these things, and it appeals right there to immediate gratification, surface apparentness, and intensity. Unfortunately, there's a reverse, a reciprocal relationship to what is more pervasive. That is to say, it does more good outside myself.
Right.
What's enduring, what lasts longer, and what is deepest, what involves our highest intellectual powers, moral powers, spiritual powers.